Thank you, Yvonne. Firstly, I'd also like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional owners, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation on whose land we meet today. I would also like to extend and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Good morning everyone and happy Friday. As Yvonne mentioned, my name is Fiona Sergi and I figured out that I've got 2 Fs in future proofing and maybe that's why I got pole position today. I'm the Sustainable Procurement Lead at Sustainability Victoria. It's a bit of a mouthful and I do understand why we have a lot of acronyms in government. I would also like to thank Procurement Australia for the invitation to speak at today's conference and also a special shout out to Esther for her everlasting enthusiasm and encouragement. I hope that today my presentation inspires some food for thought about what you can do in your organisation and how you can select materials and products to future-proof our natural resources. So who is Sustainability Victoria? We are a state government agency who sits in the environment portfolio alongside the Department of Land, Water and Planning and the Environment Protection Authority. It's our job to protect the way Victorians live, learn and work by mobilising and empowering households, communities, schools and businesses. We do this by helping them, informing them, connecting with them and providing them with the knowledge they need to take action. Our programs focus in particular on helping the Victorian community respond to climate change, waste less, recycle more, use energy wisely and move to renewable energy sources. We have a mandate for waste and resource recovery planning and implementing the 30-year statewide Waste and Resource Recovery Infrastructure Plan, or the SWRP, and support the development of a stable waste and resource recovery system. All of these take us on a journey towards 2 important strategic priorities. 1, to get Victorians to act on climate change, and 2, to use resources wisely. And I think using resources wisely is something worth talking about. If you haven't heard, and for those outside of Victoria, the Victorian government is currently delivering an unprecedented number of transport projects across the state. We have 119 major road and rail projects with an estimated budget of $57 billion. Estimates indicate that Victoria needed around 46 million tonnes of raw extractive resources for construction last year, and by 2050, demand is expected to almost double to about 88 million tonnes annually. The Metro Tunnel project alone is expected to require more than 480,000 cubic metres of ready-mix concrete, 160,000 tonnes of other extractive materials, and more than 30,000 square metres of precast concrete panels. Victoria's high demand for extractive resources and emerging supply shortfalls is creating an urgent need for government to take immediate action to secure high-quality resources needed to meet Victoria's current future infrastructure. The $57 billion question is, will Victoria have enough extractive resources in the right places to meet our future construction needs? So let's talk about extractive resources for a moment. They are high volume, heavy, low value materials that are ideally extracted close to where they are needed to minimise transport costs as well as environmental impacts. If we look at a linear cradle to grave cycle, building materials are used once and then discarded. For the most part, products and materials are consumed in a take, make, dispose fashion. This doesn't just apply to construction and building materials, but in our everyday lives. We consume or use products that are then considered waste, but are actually valuable and can have a multitude of uses. A lack of resources and shortage of material supply is an incentive for using alternative materials and reusing recycled products. We can reduce demand on virgin extractive resources by substituting them with recycled products where appropriate. We just have to think and procure differently. To assist with this, the state government is developing a circular economy policy and action plan for Victoria to be released in late 2019. A circular economy continually seeks to reduce environmental impacts of production and consumption and gain more productive use from natural resources. The primary focus of a circular economy is to use resources already in the system productively and avoid creating waste in the first place. This policy, among other things, will outline the Victorian Government's vision for how materials are used and managed throughout our economy. The priorities for the government's policy are to innovate and change the way materials are produced and flow through the economy, to construct and use our buildings better to reduce our reliance on virgin materials, to make better, more informed choices about the way we buy, how we use resources, and what we do after we have finished with them. And ultimately, build a strong and stable resource recovery system so materials are effectively recovered, recycled, and managed to close the loop. It would be remiss of me not to acknowledge that there are a number of challenges for the waste management and recycling sector at the moment. Victoria's waste management and resource recovery system is under significant strain. In January 2018, China began enforcing import restrictions on a range of low-quality and unsorted waste materials, specifically plastics, paper and cardboard, which represent a large proportion of the materials collected through curbside recycling. These changes have had a significant impact on the viability of curbside recycling services. To address the impact of China's policy changes and to improve the resilience of the sector going forward, the government released the Recycling Industry Strategic Plan in July 2018, which outlines, amongst other objectives, a goal to drive demand for products containing recycled materials through government procurement. Increasing the recovery of waste maximises the productive use and reuse of valuable resources and reduces our reliance on virgin materials. As the largest procurer of infrastructure, goods and services, government can use its significant buying power to support the recycling sector and ensure Victoria realises the full value of its recovered resources. The Circular Economy Policy and Recycling Industry Strategic Plan also align to a number of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that are receiving greater attention and uptake across the country. In particular, SDG 12, Responsible Consumption and Production, which states, "Our planet has provided us with an abundance of natural resources, but we have not utilised them responsibly and currently consume far beyond what our planet can provide. We must learn how to use and produce in sustainable ways that will reverse the harm that we have inflicted on the planet." To bridge the gap from waste material to commercial products, Sustainability Victoria have a long and proud history of financially supporting research and development by partnering with industry bodies, universities and research organisations to demonstrate the performance, potential applications and cost effectiveness of products containing recycled content. Sustainability Victoria released its market development strategy for recovered resources in 2016 to develop and improve end markets for recycled products. The strategy has 4 key approaches: research into product development and performance, product specification development on improving quality standards, product procurement focused on government as a procurer, and product stewardship. To date, SV has distributed $2.7 million worth of grant funding to inform industry of opportunities to use recovered materials in manufacturing and support the procurement of products containing recycled content. The 22 projects funded to date target materials such as tyres, glass and plastics and other problem materials. Our Minister will announce the recipients of the current round of funding worth $1.2 million soon. So, now that the serious stuff is over, I'd like to now highlight some amazing case studies and opportunities that have eventuated as a result of selecting materials differently, embracing circular economy principles and innovative thinking. I've got 3 case studies, and I'm going to start off with a video to show what's possible when you choose differently. So VicRoads have been leading Australia in developing specifications that have allowed recycled content to be used in major projects for a number of years now. There are specifications that permit recycled content, brick, glass and tyres in various applications. In 2017, VicRoads committed to use 1 million used tyres in roadworks annually over the next 5 years, and they already permit the use of between 10 to 18% of recycled tyres in various spray seal applications. SV has supported VicRoads to include recycled content, including glass, crumb rubber, brick and concrete in its specifications through funding research and development with Swinburne University and the Australian Roads Research Board. Several of these projects have resulted in successful amendments to existing VicRoads specifications to permit the use of recycled content. Earlier this year, the Corroy Creek Road level crossing removal project, which is a super mouthful, publicised that it was the first Metro Trains Melbourne project in Victoria to use recycled glass sand. Procured from a nearby recycled material supplier, recycled glass sand was used as bedding fill for combined service routes on the project, as well as backfill for drainage piping. Now, this is clearly not a picture of a combined service route or a backfill. It's a picture of the sunset over the new rail bridge construction over Corroy Creek Road with the refinery flame in the background, and I thought I'd share that with you instead. Recycled glass sand is manufactured from glass collected from the curbside. Reusing this material reduces the amount of waste being sent to landfill and preserves our existing sand deposits. It also conserves energy that would otherwise be used to extract sand. The cost of recycled glass in this case was about half the price of virgin material due to the shorter transport distances. It is also safer to handle as it presents a lower respiratory hazard than traditional sand. This project alone used 904 tonnes at this very site and then another 410 tonnes at the Aviation Road and Wyndham Vale stabling sites. If you can't picture what 1,300 tonnes of recycled glass sand looks like, it's 21 E-Class trams. E-Class trams weigh approximately 62 tonnes, not these little Lego ones, but the real Bombardier ones do. So the last case study, what do vineyards of the Riverina and railway sleepers have in common? I'll let this video case study do the talking.
The opportunity for a recycled plastic sleeper in railways is almost unheard of.
Now, most people would have said a recycled plastic isn't going to be strong enough to support the loads under mainline operations.
The more I dug into it, the more I realised this is a real game changer. We've got a lot of plastic waste going to landfill, and here's something that's using 85% plastic. And it looks like it has a longer life than wooden sleepers.
The Duratrack sleeper story started back in 2014 when Public Transport Victoria wanted to find a substitute for timber sleepers. The issue with timber railway sleepers is their relatively short life and the dwindling supplies of quality timber. Integrated recycling lives in the circular economy, and that means that we take materials that have already had a primary use, like the vine covers that are behind us. They've already had their life on the vines, they've enabled the growers to grow grapes. We then use it, it becomes part of the formulation for making Duratrack railway sleepers. For us to be able to develop that, we needed partners in this journey. Sustainability Victoria's contribution was invaluable. The research grant that it gave to Monash University to enable that analysis of flexible plastics in a railway sleeper environment product was critical.
Welcome to our mechanical testing facility. The purpose of this test is to assess the structural capacity of the material. Most railways are quite risk averse. Fundamentally, the current mixes well and truly exceed the requirements of any of the standards worldwide.
We change out thousands of sleepers every year, so this could be a real alternative for us and a much more environmentally friendly one.
We want a viable product at the end that is purchased in quantity by the railway companies so that we can then continue to develop this as a new industry in Australia. We believe very strongly that sustainability won't occur without innovation. The work that Sustainability Victoria are doing to encourage collaboration between industry and university, I would say to anybody, is absolutely vital.
So if you're ever on platform 9 3/4 at Richmond Station, or maybe platform 2 even, safely look over the edge to see where 190 sleepers were laid in June of this year. The sleepers require far less maintenance and have a lifespan of up to 50 years, which is 3 times longer than traditional timber sleepers. Each kilometre of those sleepers laid contains 54 tonnes of recycled plastic and 10 tonnes of recycled polystyrene, which is nearly another E-class tram. At the end of their lifetime, the sleepers will be recycled into new sleepers, fulfilling the promise of a truly circular economy. So there are some good news stories out there and hopefully some inspiration for you to take back to the office with you. Through greater innovation and different approaches to selecting materials, we can make this the norm instead of the extraordinary. We just have to start making decisions now to future-proof our resources and materials for the next generation. The Victorian Government is committed to advancing in this space, so keep your eye out for opportunities. Thank you. Hopefully there are some questions.
Just a couple of questions. Earlier on in your presentation, there was one of the sites, and the question is, that's a heck of a lot of concrete and steel in there. Is there a plan to offset the greenhouse gases produced at that stage?
For which site, sorry?
Earlier on.
I would say so. I think there's views to look at low carbon concrete and different mixes so that there is less carbon and embodied carbon in the concrete. Yep, definitely.
Okay, and are there any other sites targeted for the plastic sleepers?
So the Richmond station was laid in June, and then there was a V-line track at the Wyndham Vale stabling yard laid in July last month. So there's those two, and essentially they're looking for 2 years or 2 summers worth of data to trial the tracks. So they're currently on a number of heritage sites, so Puffing Billy, Queensland Rail are also trialling them as well. So it's just about getting that data to make sure that they're good on the network, and then hopefully we'll see a greater uptake of them.
Okay. Collection and separation of recyclables is a large task and expense. Is there a strategy to improve this process, and how will this impact on council costs? Will there be a government incentive?
I'll answer that in 2 parts. So the Recycling Industry Strategic Plan is looking at a number of things to, I suppose, stabilise the sector in terms of source separation is one of the key things to making sure we've got a greater and cleaner feedstock to use in any processing and remanufacturing here domestically. So yes, there is investigations on the cards at the moment looking at different methods or different bins. At the moment, Yarra City Council is actually trialling a glass separation, which is going amazingly well. Glass is actually a major contaminant in bins once it starts compacting in the trucks that pick up your curbside recycling and goes through all the other materials. It actually renders them quite useless. So getting glass out of the system is key. How that works with the councils, I'm sure there will be thorough consultation and looking to how that would be implemented. Incentives, not too sure.
All right. And do you have a specific supplier of recycled glass sand?
There are a couple in Victoria and potentially an emerging market. The Corroy Creek Road or the level crossing removal project used Alex Fraser, which is, I believe, a couple of kilometres up the road in Laverton. So it was really handy for them, and it really goes to show that when you're sourcing products to close to where the project actually happens, you can actually reduce the costs as well.
Okay, I'll leave it there, Fiona. Don't forget, you can chat to Fiona in the breaks as well. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.